I get a text and they're like, hey, I just heard this song. I'm pretty sure it was you. Or were you on Love is Blind? I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe. They used it. And it was like #1 Netflix streamed episode that day. I wrote a hit. Why am I not signed 2 weeks later? You know, it's like, well, just keep writing. It just hits when it hits, and you never know when that's going to be.
You were talking about working at Pandora.
Pandora, and when it was a startup, and PR and iHeart, like that was all on the business development side.
You know, I've seen like, you know, clips of you in the past with Big Boy, for example,
I love
the radio guy.
Yes,
you know,
he's the best. I believe that artists like you and me and big artists, like ultimately we're sharing a message. It's mission driven. Whether you know it or not, you're shaping culture. When you're asking what can I contribute, you're assuming you have something to contribute, you know? But like when you're asking am I good enough to be here, you're not going to be performing, you know? And also like you never know who it's going to move. That's when I got the right confidence to pursue music.
This is They're Good at That Shit, where I talk to musicians who are killing the game and get their knowledge, wisdom, talk about the things they're doing that are really cool and figure out how they do it and, you know, if there's anything we can learn from it. So my guest today has had sync placements on shows like Love is Blind, Vanderpump Rules. She's also one of the guest hosts of Monday as well. Caroline Dezelle, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you. How are you?
I'm great. I'm happy to be here.
All right, thank you so much.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, as always.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into the sync thing. So you, like I said, you've had shows or had songs on shows like Love is Blind, Vanderpump Rules.
Yep.
What was like the process of getting those placements?
Songs.
Yeah, what was that like?
Yeah. I remember the first sync placement I ever got.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will always remember. It's just so imprinted in my memory.
Sure.
And I was in the New York airport and I got a phone call from someone who was like, someone sent me your song. I want to use it for a movie. Is that okay? And I was like, be cool, be cool, be cool. I'm like, well, let me think. Yeah, I was like, hold on for a minute. And I'm like freaking out.
Yeah.
And then I get back and I'm like, wait, so who sent you my song? Like, and like tried to act chill and professional. But I was really, really excited because it was a big goal for me to try to get something placed. And it was a friend of mine who I met at a songwriting school in Burbank. The Songwriting School of Los Angeles is what it's called.
Okay.
He had sent it to a music supervisor for me. I didn't even know he'd done that. And she wanted to place it. But what I learned from it was he had actually sent it months before this happened, you know, and since then I've worked in sync for a while and like pitched songs for film and TV. And one of the things I learned is that lots of times supervisors will have your music for a really long time, but it's not until the right opportunity comes that they'll use it. So it helped me not get discouraged because it really is right opportunity, right song timing thing. But after that, I formed a relationship with her, and you know we went out to lunch. And I'm a big believer. You know this. I'm a big believer in like whoever you meet in the industry, just nurturing those relationships because you guys can. You eventually there might be something where you can help each other out. And we became friends, and since then I've remained friends with them. They've gone to different film companies, and like sometimes they'll hit me up with creative briefs and stuff. And then just friends I've met at Hotel Café who've like do this for a living. That's how the Love is Blind thing. A friend of mine, a friend of a friend saw me play and was like, I need someone with a voice like yours or who can write lyrics to work on some of these projects. And we wrote songs for sync. And I've just learned a lot through that process about what people are looking for sync. Like certain words they want to use, certain, like you don't want to be too specific about certain things. And like, some kind of tips for if you want a song to be synced, here's what you should do.
Yeah, what are like some of those things?
Okay, so oohs and ahs.
Okay.
Big. Lyrics that kind of like
they like oohs and ahs?
They like oohs and ahs. They like the word we.
Okay.
They like in a chorus like we like I always think of like we're not gonna take it or something like
it makes it more like inclusive as opposed to he or she or you or,
it's something specific. Anything that like those lyrics that are a little bit more general, like I have a song where the chorus is I feel it rising over and over again. They often look for like anthemic and empowering or like soft and subtle, but they don't want it to detract from the scene.
Sure.
So it has to be like a lot of my songs I write for catharsis are very like narrative, you know, and they are very specific and focused on like the poetry of it. And then there are other things like your song about being on the highway, like stood on the
freeway,
stood on the freeway.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's pretty relatable,
Sure.
and that would go with a lot of different scenarios. So that's a good one for sync. But and then like a lot of them you don't want swearing. You always want a clean version of the song if you're trying to sync it. And you always want to get an instrumental from your producer,
Right.
because they're always going to ask for the instrumental so that they can slice it around dialogue.
Yeah.
And those are the main things I've learned.
Yeah. So a lot of these placements came from just like people you met or interacted with. You said you also worked in sync as well. What did you take away from that time kind of working in sync?
Well, it's quick. That's one thing I learned. And like lots of times you'll get a brief and they need like a list of, you know, maybe 10 songs that could fit quickly. And when you're in that position and you have a song that's like got all the information you need to clear it, like all the metadata, has the instrumental, has all that, likelihood is you're going to send that over a song that doesn't, even if the song that doesn't is just as good, you know, for this scene. So like the importance of those details in a fast moving business, I learned like just how important they are.
Right.
So that was one big takeaway for me, was like the admin stuff. When you're creative, like I said, like it's easy to overlook. You know, you're kind of like, this is such a cool song. This song's perfect for sync. I'm gonna, you know, try to pitch it. It's like, but if you don't include all that other stuff and someone's on a deadline and they're like between yours and something else
that they have all the information for already.
Yeah.
Somebody that already has all their ducks in a row, they're gonna go with that person.
Totally.
Because they don't have time to be.
They don't have time to chase you down. Yeah. So that's a big part of it. You know, and just like having things what they call like pre-cleared or whatever. So like you've given permissions and stuff, because the deadlines are pretty quick.
So like if you have other people that are writing with you, making sure that they're cool with, and everybody at the sync agency or whatever has their permission as well, or you know, a lot of times having what they call a one-stop signed, where everybody involved is cool with this being used. Whatever. It's
like every other industry where it's like the less work the better, you know, and time is money. So like you just want to make it as easy as possible for people to say yes, which isn't always like when we're in a creative mindset and we're writing because we love writing and we're in the studio with our friends. Like we're not always thinking about that business aspect layer of like making this easy for someone. But that I'm like, oh man, you can have the best song in the world, and if you don't make it easy, like you might get overlooked, you know? So that was one thing. Definitely learned about kind of what I mentioned before, like it can be so discouraging, like if you're trying to send stuff for placements or whatever and you don't hear anything, or you know, but it just hits when it hits, and you never know when that's going to be. And you never know, like, how big it's gonna be, or you know. So it's I think staying encouraged about that was one thing I've learned too.
Yeah. Talk about the Love Is Blind moment when you found out that was like on that show, or maybe talk about the moment like when you saw it, like when did you see it on the show, like what was that?
That was really cool. That was a really fun moment for me too, because that was probably the biggest one I'd had, and I wrote that song with my friend Tomas Altamirano, and he works for a company that does music for Love Is Blind and Vanderpump Rules and a bunch of those shows. So we had a brief like years before. It's one of those examples where it was like, yeah, we want a love song and something about a 1 in a million love and something about, and we're like, cool, that's going to be the chorus, 1 in a million love. Like we're literally taking it from the brief. We write the song, they gave us some references, we gave it to them, and we basically, our agreement was once we write the song, you know, they pay us for it or whatever, and then they have the right to use it whenever they want, however they want, and we keep the royalties. So they didn't have to clear it with us. They didn't even have to tell us, hey, we're using this song. So I had no idea. And I'm at a party, like at a friend's birthday party, and I get a text and they're like, hey, I just heard this song. I'm pretty sure it was you. Or were you on Love Is Blind? I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe. And they're like, they sent me the little clip and they're like, hey, is this you? And I'm like, that sounds like me. But I didn't really remember the song. So I sent it to Tomas. I'm like, hey, is this us? And he was like, oh, yeah, that's us. That's the company. They used it. And it was like #1 Netflix streamed episode that day.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is amazing. So I like went home and watched the episode, but I had no idea that they were even going to do it before. And I hadn't even released it, which was a missed opportunity because if people are trying to Shazam it, you know, you want it to be there.
Sure.
But with that one, we had to get permission to release it because we technically like wrote it for that brief. And they gave it to us, you know, which was fine. So it was, but the window was a little like,
behind.
Yeah, like I kind of wished I'd had the foresight to be like, hey, let us release this just in case.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you didn't know the timing of, you know, when it was gonna hit, so it was kind of hard to
it's hard to predict.
Yeah, playing that out.
But it's a good example of like a year and a half later, you get that text at a party. You're like, hey, I just heard you on TV. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
It went somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe in that situation, maybe the lesson could be just kind of have it ready, and then, you know, if something like that happens, like, you know, drop that thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was cool. That was a fun one.
Yeah, exciting. That's super cool. And then Vanderpump Rules as well. What was that?
Yeah, it's a similar kind of deal where we like. I think it might even be the same company. I'm not sure, but I think Vanderpump and Love Is Blind might be like the same.
Got you. Yeah.
Network. So it was something we'd written for them.
Yeah.
That they had called Love Changes Everything.
Okay.
And that one was a little different, the writing process, because writing for sync is fun, I think, when they give you those prompts like something about a 1 in a million love, a love that you know surpasses all odds and that you stick with. And I'm like, okay, cool, I'll write about that. You know, like I wasn't feeling about like that I wanted to write about that, but I will. And then like how would that, you know, it's like almost some of it too, like there've been a couple times they send me scenes without music. Not for Love Is Blind, but for other like movies and stuff. And then you write a song for that scene. And that's fun because it's like such a sort of like empathy practice where you're like, what are these people feeling? How do I paint on someone else's painting? Like this is their art. Now I'm going to try to add to it and not detract from it. It's very different than me writing a song because, you know, I got my heart broken or I'm excited about something or like my own feelings, you know?
Yeah.
So I like that. As a practice, like as a writing practice. But the one for Vanderpump, I actually did write for Catharsis first. Like I had this song and then it kind of matched one of the briefs. I'm like, let's try to, maybe we should record this song I've already written, like a version of it for it. And so that one was kind of interesting because it was for Catharsis, but it happened to work for this brief.
Nice.
Most of them I would write for the brief.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I think part of the lesson too is how beneficial and useful it can be to be at things like Monday, for example. 100%. I mean, you talked about, you know, meeting people that you ended up working with in sync at places like, you know, Monday and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, those things are very beneficial.
That's
think
where we
sometimes,
met.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes people kind of, some artists can underestimate like the value of just kind of being outside of those things.
Totally. You know? Yeah. Or just playing. Like when people ask you to play something, like nothing is, you never know what's going to come from that. You know, it could just be like a small showcase or like you're opening for someone or something, but you don't know who's in the room. And that can lead to, it's exactly what happened, you know? And also like, you never know who it's going to move, you know, because frankly, not everybody likes my music, you know, and some people like, it's just not for them and other people get it and they're moved by it and they're like, I want to write with you, you know? And so like, I think that's important too, because I've definitely had the feeling when I play something and I'm like, oh, it didn't really go how I wanted it to go. I feel a little, am I even good at this anymore? Like whatever, you know, you get the artist self-doubt and then you get people who are like, they feel something, you know, and to me, it's also subjective. It's like, you never know, like it could be a lyric, it could be any, like, but I feel like if you're called to it, it's for a reason. Yeah. And so it's like, you just make it for whoever feels it. Yeah. And don't worry about the people who like, don't get it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's about finding your tribe too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the more you kind of get out and play, and the more you kind of meet up with other artists and things, you find, the people that resonate with you, and you vibe with them, they vibe with you.
Yeah, yeah.
And, they're down to play on your stuff and whenever, and you're down to work with them, collaborate with them.
Right.
And so, and I think sometimes people get discouraged because maybe they try to put a band together, something, and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, this doesn't work. But it's like you just have to keep, kind of keep meeting other people. The people are out there that will vibe with you and will be down to collaborate with you and things like that.
Absolutely.
But it's just sometimes you have to just find them. You have to
put yourself out there, go out, keep playing, keep doing it, and then it's so worth it. It's like when the payoff when you do find those people is so great, can lead to such good things. To your point, and like, listen, there are so many nights where I'm like, I'm not going out, and then I do go out, and something amazing happens, But it can be so tempting, especially this day and age. Like, people tend to isolate more than they used to, But it's valuable to be in the room.
Yeah, for
sure. Yeah,
absolutely. You've also, had the opportunity to, kind of in your like job work very closely with music as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a goal for, a lot of us to be, if we're going to be, we're going to have to work, might as well be involved, we might as well be involved in music in some way, So you've worked with iHeart Radio and done some cool things there.
Yeah.
And I've seen like, clips of you in the past with Big Boy, for example,
I love
the radio guy.
Yes, he's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into him in Calabasas a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at the gas station, he calls me like, I think I'm seeing you at a gas station. And I'm like, got it. He just called me and we got to give him a big hug. I hadn't seen him in a while. He's such good energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just such a sweet, heart-forward person.
Yeah.
Yeah, very authentic. But yeah, he's really sweet. I mean, I've met a lot of people I really love, and I am lucky that I've gotten to work in an industry that I love. I mean, there's so many aspects of music, I know you're the same, that are just like wonderful. And one thing, like, I've worked for music companies my whole life, and it wasn't on accident. Like, I wanted to learn as much as I could about the business and advocate for artists and, music discovery and all of that. But I was always on, for music, like Pandora, and when it was a startup, and NPR and iHeart, like that was all on the business development side. And then at Songtradr, it was like the licensing side, like pitching artists. And then I became like the artist community manager, so like more artist advocacy, which was a little different, but a little bit of business development in there. And now I work in philanthropy, so like helping, like I believe that artists like you and me and big artists, like, ultimately we're sharing a message. It's mission driven. Whether you know it or not, you're shaping culture. And there's a responsibility that comes with that. Like, if you're given musical abilities, or really any abilities, like, I just think that whatever gifts you're given, it's like there's a responsibility to like use them for, just to be mindful about like the messages you're sharing. And recently, I feel like I've gotten to work with a lot of people who do use their platforms for like positive social impact and cultural change. And I've been really lucky because that is the truest intersection of everything I care about. It's like, how does music affect the way people think? How does it shape the world? And how do you give a platform to the people who get that and who are trying to move things forward? And so I feel grateful that I've gotten to work closely to things I actually really love, and it wasn't always that way, but like, it took me a while to find my place in the world and like what I wanted to do, But I mean, I know you also worked at iHeart, and you've also worked in like entertainment, and we have very similar trajectories in that way, where we get to do a little bit of both. And so I know you get that. Like, it's helpful to know about.
Yeah. All your experiences, kind of help shape who you become. And so I think, trying to pick those experiences, as best you can. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, but, trying to, position yourself in such a way that you can learn about the things that you want to be learning about, and and do as much of what you can, I think is cool, and is key to, kind of being who you ultimately want to become.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like learning from people who are doing what you want to do at different levels, or like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love meeting people I admire
Yeah.
and like learning from them, like
Yeah.
um, how have they achieved this, and how do they stay grounded and real?
Yeah, well, what were some of those lessons, I guess, that you learned from those people who you admire? You're like, okay, they've reached to where I want to reach. Like, what were kind of some of the lessons you learned from them? Or if there's anybody you want to mention specifically, cool. But if not, just what are the lessons?
I mean, that's a really good question. I feel like anyone I've admired who's been successful almost always attributes their success to being mission driven. Like those people, for them, at least the ones I admire and I've met, and this is my sense, right? I get the sense it's not about all the things that maybe initially would draw someone to being. It's not about the status. It's not about the money. It's not about the fame. It becomes about something else. And maybe it always was about something else. And that's kind of, I don't know. I think that's why their trajectory is blessed. I'd sound a little hippy dippy, but like,
No.
I think most of them, they feel a connection to the world. They feel like a sense of purpose and meaning in what they're doing. And from that, really good things follow. And I believe that. I think when you really know not only like what's my sphere of influence, what are the skills or unique talents I bring to a situation, everybody has them, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody has unique things I think
Yeah.
they're born with.
Yeah.
But when you figure that out and you match it with, and how can I do good with this?
Yeah.
I think that formula tends to lead. Plus, I think confidence, because I think all of us have a little bit of like imposter syndrome or self-doubt, or
Sure.
the trippy stuff that happens in your head about
Sure.
like, do I really deserve to be here?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think learning how to maybe feel that but turn it down, or like just stay others focused. Like the more others focused people are, I think the less that self-centered chatter takes over,
Because you're not really thinking about that. It's not really about that.
It's not, it's not about what's everybody thinking about me.
Yeah.
It's like, what can I contribute, And that maybe that's why the mission-driven people tend to be successful, because when your contribution's focused, the confidence, you're just asking better questions, so the self-doubt doesn't plague you quite as much. I don't know. These are things I have kind of sensed that I hope are true. And I think a lot of the people I've met that I admire kind of fall into that. They seem to operate that way.
Yeah.
At least from my perspective.
Yeah. I love what you said about, asking better questions.
Yeah.
In terms of, just not focusing on, the questions that you have of self-doubt.
Yeah.
But just, asking yourself, the better questions.
Yeah.
That as if you belong,
Totally.
Yeah.
Like when you're asking, what can I contribute? You're assuming you have something to contribute, But like when you're asking, am I good enough to be here?
Yeah.
You're not going to be performing, Like it's just and it's not that my disposition has changed or my mind has changed or my fears have changed. It's just a different approach, that like assumes, it assumes that I have something to share,
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to go back to, you were talking about working at Pandora.
Yeah.
You said when it was a startup?
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh my God, I was so happy. I loved it. It's one of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was pre Spotify coming to the US.
Wow.
It was I'd heard of Pandora and in like my early 20s, and I loved it. And I thought it was so cool. And
Yeah.
I was living in San Francisco and working in tech. And I'd like followed Tim Westergren, who founded it, and like was really interested in just the whole concept of like music discovery through technology. And And they were hiring. And even before I moved to California, I applied for it and got in touch with the HR person. And they were like, "Do you live in California?" And I was like, "No, but I'm going to," and just never heard back. And then when I lived in California, they opened, I applied again. And I remember this was also like a lesson to me in perseverance, because I got an offer that time, but the timing wasn't right. Like, I had something at my current job that I had to finish. Like, I couldn't leave. I felt like it wouldn't have been good integrity. So I declined it. And I was like, maybe, and it was like my dream job, but I was like, maybe later. And then a couple months later, there was another opening, and I was like, "Can we revisit this?" And they were like, "Yeah." And we actually thought it was really cool that you didn't bounce, like, from your, like, they admired that I wanted the job, but didn't want to leave in that moment. But anyway, it was like 3 times. And then finally I went there, and it was like, I was probably their 200th hire or something. And it was so fast. It was growing so much, and it just exploded. And that's when I got the right confidence to pursue music, because I'd always played and I'd always loved it. But I always thought like it was a pipe dream, or like, it was like, oh, it's not reasonable. It's not a reasonable thing to pursue. But then everybody there, like a bunch of them that were analyzing the music, they were like on tour with Lucinda Williams and Ryan Adams and the Counting Crows and all these people that I listened to back then.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, you do this like as a living? Like, and they're like, yeah, yeah. And then they ended up playing on my records, and my first demo was produced by someone I worked with at Pandora. They were all musicians.
Wow.
So I was like, oh, this isn't just something that you should, like, it's like people do this and you can do it and you should. And I was like, so that was the start of my music.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to go back to something you said a little earlier about integrity and keeping to your integrity, because I think that's key, because there are definitely pivotal moments that come up where you can choose a different path or a different choice.
Yeah.
And that might even seem like a viable choice or what you should do in the moment. Like, for example, I had, so I work for NBCLA.
Yeah.
And when I was in the hiring process, like the interviewing process for that job, I was working at another TV station, and I want to say, okay, so let's say I was supposed to work at the TV station I was at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, we want you to come at 1 p.m. and do this interview.
Yeah.
And so at that point, it's like I could call out sick. This job, the current job I was at, I could call out sick and go do this interview, because this was like a dream to work here at NBC.
Yes. Yes.
And so, but I was like, you know what, I have to work. And here's what I told him. I said, if I'm working for you, I'm gonna show up.
Treat you the same way.
I'm gonna treat you the same way. I'm gonna show up,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna honor my commitments to be, on the clock or whatever.
Right. Right.
And so they respected that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think there's something to that, like when you show up with integrity, and and sometimes there's these moments where it's like, okay, yeah, I could do this, but I think people respect and appreciate if you stand your ground on integrity.
100%.
And if not, maybe it's just not the right thing, or it's not the right time. You know what I mean?
Or it's not the right fit. Yeah. Because I mean, people show you who they are. They do. Like, if you pay attention, and something like that is showing them, oh, you're someone who's going to honor your commitments. Like, why would that, to me, that's such a demonstration of a quality that I would want, So, but it can be really tempting in the moment to just do what serves you, So I think that is that's an interesting story. But I think it's really really good thing to see, like, when people are demonstrating like those qualities. And like I was saying, like, when people tell me something I don't want to hear, I'm like, I might not like it in the moment, but I know you're going to tell me the truth,
Yeah.
And that to me is more meaningful than, like, not, it just shows the substance of character. It's like, all right, like I respect that too, even though it might not be, or like when people let me know if I've offended them, like a friend is like, hey, that actually really wasn't cool. Like, I'm like, oh, thank you so much for telling me, because that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But like, you must really care about our relationship if you're gonna let me know how you operate.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so like I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up. All right.
Yeah.
So in
Anyway, back to
NPR.
music.
Yeah, no, so yeah, no, anyway, so yeah, that was super cool about Pandora and all the musicians, and then you said you worked at NPR too?
Yeah, just for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like a contract position.
Oh, okay.
But actually they were really exploding in podcasts at the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, nice.
Yeah.
And how was that?
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should check out Broadway Bees podcast.
All right. On to Monday.
Yeah.
So you're a guest host at Monday.
Yes.
Very popular singer-songwriter showcase here in LA. What would be, I guess, when you're putting together a night, what would be kind of what you're looking for in artists that you're booking for Monday?
What do I look for in
Yeah.
those artists? Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, I love those nights. I know that you host them too, and it's a special community. And I've met so many of my best friends at that night.
Yeah.
I mean, I usually look for a diversity in the range, like different not necessarily different genres, but a variety.
Yeah,
You know,
styles.
and like who would work together. Like I think about the lineup as a whole. But I think I personally like to have people that I know deliver every time that are just amazing and completely knock everyone's socks off. And I also like to find people who are like emerging, who maybe haven't gotten to do it before. And like it's exciting to me to have like people from different genres at different stages in their like artist journey in one night.
Yeah.
I think it adds a lovely like sense of community.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is something about when people tell me specifically, at least, oh man, I wanted to play this for years sometimes. And
Yeah.
like, oh, it's so cool to
Yes.
see
Yeah.
that.
That feeling is cool. Like knowing that someone is really stoked to be there and excited to be on stage, like that adds an energy to the room that I think is really important and nice. So, and it feels good to get to, because I remember that feeling the first time I played it. I was like, I've been wanting to play this forever, and it's fun to get to pass that forward.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that like Joel lets me do it sometimes. Like it's been such a highlight in my life.
Same. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely love hosting the Monday, so it's been really, really cool and a lot of fun. Would you say, or what would you say would be any do's or don'ts for people trying to hit you up to play on a Monday?
That's a good question. I guess I definitely welcome, anybody who wants to do it to let me know and message, and I totally appreciate and respect that. I think going to the night is important because then you get a sense of what it's like, and it just shows that you're invested in being a part of the community and you're supportive of the community. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I think being supportive of the other artists, for me, I admire that. I respect that. It's kind of, I think, the spirit of it.
Yeah.
And I think I would say, not necessarily that it's a don't, but something that I can find a challenge is if like you ask someone to play it and they want like a specific time slot, but they don't necessarily have a reason, like, I mean, it's all well and good. It's like, oh, I got another show, or like, it's like, you need to tell someone that.
Yeah.
But if it's just kind of like, the thing is, it's a little like a Rubik's Cube trying to fit everybody in and at the right time. And you don't want to put like all people who sound the same at certain times, and it's not necessarily like any time is better or worse, in my opinion. But I find it a little, like, it's like if the invitation is there and there's not like a legit reason to want to switch, it can feel a little bit like you're creating work. Like we should all just be grateful we're playing. So that's the only thing. Not necessarily a don't, because sometimes it's legit, and it's always okay to ask. But just if it's like if it's sort of like like a little bit of an entitled thing.
Yeah, if you're just being a diva.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like that kind of puts me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Understandable.
Yeah.
Caroline, so what are there any I guess resources, courses, YouTube channels, anything that you've looked at, consumed to help you become good at what you do?
I like that question. I think there are things that, well, I went to the Songwriting School of Los Angeles in
Right.
Burbank when
Yep.
I
You
first
mentioned
got
that.
here. I
Yep.
met a ton of people there. I learned a lot about songwriting. That's a great school to check out.
Okay.
You meet tons of people. And I got some really valuable skills from that. And they have courses in licensing and courses in all kinds of things. Um, our friend Ari
Yeah.
Herstand obviously wrote an awesome book about making it in the industry. Ari's take
Yeah.
is, awesome. A lot of people know it,
Yeah.
but it can be really up to date, useful knowledge.
Yeah.
I think, I think like asking people who've done what you want to do is always a good move, and uh, just for insights or like there are a lot of talks that are given, like, we're going to do a talk on sync or different event, like finding out where those events are and hearing the supervisors and meeting them, showing up to that kind of thing can be really helpful and useful.
Yeah.
And there are tons of them, and you
Yeah.
can lots of times they're free, and like sometimes they're not, but like it's worth going and learning, and just even for the network.
Yeah.
But I also think a lot of what I've learned has just been from like everything we were talking about, like going to the venues, meeting people, being open to what they have to share, writing with a lot of different people if you can, like supporting other artists in like real world life
Yeah.
in the studio. You pick it up by doing, so I think just showing up is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Or at least for me.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, like the courses and things like Ari's Take, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some good courses. I think a lot of times, we are afraid to spend money on things too, like courses and things like that.
Yeah.
But, I think it's an investment in you,
Yeah.
So I think there is value in, setting aside some money and taking some of those courses and doing some of those things, because it's only gonna help you. It's only gonna, you only pick up knowledge and two, I feel like there's not really, when you're learning and when it's in education, there's no waste of money to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can get a course and maybe it wasn't like, maybe it didn't like, I think people sometimes expect that some course is gonna help them just rocket to the top, and it's not really like that. I always say it's like, in general, we're building a house, and I think sometimes people want to look at, or want to put out one piece of content or one music video and they want it to like go viral, but it's like, no, it's we're building a house one brick at a time.
Yeah.
And so like this course that I'm taking here, that's one brick.
Yeah.
This piece of content I'm putting out, that's one brick. Like if I can get, a follower or 2 followers from this one piece of content, dope. If I can get a follower, 2 followers from this song that I put out, dope. That's a brick.
Yeah.
So everything is, we're laying it one brick at a time.
Totally.
And so like anything that you can do to sturdy that foundation.
Yeah.
And, just get the bricks coming in, like, okay, let's go ahead and stack these bricks. Like the more you, the more you intake, the more you absorb, that's just more bricks, what I mean, that you have to lay. And then you can stack the house faster the more that you're, investing in yourself and your education. And, so
absolutely.
That's kind of how I feel.
I think you're spot on. I think there's a music school in Santa Monica I love called Lamp, and it was founded by Stargate, these incredible producers that worked with everybody. And they posted a clip right after the Grammys where one of them was talking to the students and saying, some of these artists put out the songs that they're winning for 4 years ago, or this many years ago. It's like, and what I loved about that is like he was kind of highlighting that these careers are a journey. And I think that's so true of the arts and of music. Like I find with my friends, like when they're like buying a course and expect a quick payoff, it's like it's not really like how it works, I don't think. And I mean, who knows what kind of timing you're gonna have with success, but like
Right.
who knows what success even means to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if I think there are two paths, like in my mind. I've seen like two different types of people who pursue this. One is it seems insatiable. It's like, why haven't I made it? I want to make it. And something incredible happens. Like, yeah, that's cool. And they get like the short-term high and they're like, yeah, no, I need more. I need more. I need to be this. I want to be that. I want to see something. And it's like, well, what is it? What is it that you want? And they can't quite answer that. It's like, do you want to be selling out stadiums? Do you want to win a Grammy? Do you want to have, a press piece? Do you want to like, what is the outcome that's going to make you feel fulfilled? And then you get this other kind, in my opinion, where it's like, it's just who they are. Like I'm playing because I want to play. I don't know what else to do. Like it's natural to me as breathing. And everything that happens as a result of that is gravy, And like they tend to be happier and just as successful, in my opinion. Like not like I think the drive is there for that too, but it's just like, I don't think that I find it doesn't really necessarily serve me to be expecting like super quick results, like I wrote a hit. Why am I not signed 2 weeks later? It's like, well, just keep writing, like just keep going. And like, that's how the momentum comes is like, stay in the heart of it. In my opinion. And anything that teaches you how to create and how to get that out, like, cool.
And it's like you're stacking skills as well. Like you may pick up from one course, you may pick up one thing, right? And then that one thing, you kind of embed that into yourself and use that. And then there may be something else that you can kind of stack on top of that. Like, oh, okay, I learned this thing over here, and if I put that with this thing over here, now I've got something, So it's like stacking those skills as well, like on top of each other. And then again, it's you're helping build something,
Totally. Yeah. It's very true. It's like you're never gonna fail by investing in yourself. It's only gonna lead to good things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Caroline Dezelle, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming through.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was awesome.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Peace.
Bye.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Broadway, the host. If you got something out of the episode, definitely go ahead and hit the like button. Also subscribe and turn on the notifications so you can get notified whenever we drop new episodes. If there was something specific that you learned or found interesting, put that in the comments. Also, if there was something that you thought you were going to learn more about, wanted to hear more about, and you didn't, put that in the comments as well. We can use that to make these episodes better going forward. Thank you again for checking out They're Good at That Shit.